And good evening, everybody. This is last week today for May 3rd, 2021. I am Chuck Black. I am with Al Calder, and we are covering the most important stories on Freedom Forum News for the last week. And tell me, Al, what was your most fun story over the last week?
This is a no-brainer, Chuck. It's the Allen Show with Allen. It's the one that we were involved in, Chuck, right?
I would say absolutely. To that end, let me see if I can find it. It's down here somewhere. It is the May 2nd, 2021 Quebec police target independent journalists. One of those independent journalists was us. We were in a car with Free Speech
Mike.
Media Mike Bear. He was driving. You'll notice Al Calder on the ground being rousted by Montreal police, who were oddly enough on the border between Ottawa and Quebec on the 401 as it turns into the 419, I believe. Is that the right number?
417 maybe, but I don't know.
Maybe 417. We were driving down it. We were pulled over by at least a half a dozen police cruisers, maybe more. They insisted that the border was closed and all non essential travel in and out of Quebec, especially us,
Yeah.
was forbidden. Mike shouted.
Yeah.
I tried to collaborate because I'm a nice, sociable guy. I just wanted to give them what they want to move on. And Al,
Had to get something off my chest.
yeah, Al did a good job too. He was a bit surly, but we didn't know. At some point, they just opened the car doors and pulled Al out. They tried to pull me out, but they didn't succeed. I'm a little bigger than Al, and maybe I just had a nicer face. But they actually arrested Al. They took him off for 4 or 5 hours. It was a bit of a pain to find him. Uh, and they escorted Mike and I back across the border in our vehicle, and then we went to Ottawa to find Al. We eventually crossed over the country borders, the provincial borders. The I don't even know if the borders are real, but there were no security guards. There were no provincial police at the border in Ottawa, and we crossed over the next morning.
Yeah, the Gatineau way kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
So what happened though is that when they were asking ridiculous questions, like really would have a hard time telling the stories as well as the video I took was. The video is of myself in the passenger seat with my just a normal cell phone video. They were humming around side to side to hassle to find a God knows what, and I took the video of the negotiations I was having with them, and then as they ripped me out of the car, and I threw my phone away, and then there's the picture of that.
yeah. Mike told us afterwards that when he stops the car, his car automatically opens all the doors, and
Oh,
we didn't know that. Maybe we should have kept the doors closed. And the police
oh,
officer opened Al's door and opened my door, and they pulled Al out, and they arrested him and they carted him away, and it wasn't fun. We got a video of Al. Al got some really good footage, and after we got Al back, we did interviews with everybody involved, and Jane, our paralegal, who performed sterling yeoman service, and she found out where he was, and we found them about 12:30 at a hotel where the OPP had dropped them off.
I'm
And
just
yeah, you go.
standing outside of a closed hotel, just so you're clear. I wasn't in the lounge. There was no doors that I was allowed into it.
They took all his money. They took him to a bank machine. They tried to find him $1,000. He didn't have that, so they fined him whatever he had.
My
I think he
Visa
had
card.
$500.
My
Yeah,
Visa card. And so
it,
they told they maybe have a cash advance or I was going to be in jail then.
yeah.
And they gave me the receipt in here. Oh, never mind. Also, it doesn't matter that. But they gave me the receipt or ticket, as they call it. And so here we have it. And I guess this is a good thing to have. And I'm on my way to calling someone about that very shortly.
We have engaged a lawyer. It didn't stop our reporting, which I'm deeply pleased by. But I am told that this was sort of an ongoing thing. They stopped a number of people. They stopped a number of cars from the line. Lamont Daigle and Lamont eventually turned around. They stopped a number of other cars, particularly affiliated with the Saturday morning protest uh, in a variety of Catholic churches in Montreal. They turned everybody back, and they couldn't stop everybody, but they made a good kick of the can. They stopped the early crossers, and I think they did that intentionally so the early crossers would call the other people who are going to go and scare them off. I think if you look at what happened during our video, and we have a pretty comprehensive 30-minute video of what was going on, I think you'll note that the police were really keen to intimidate people. We were just lucky we had our paperwork in order. We were just lucky we had our cards. We were reasonably lucky that we knew what we were doing, and we were exceptionally lucky to come by such a great paralegal uh, like Jane, who could find Al in a timely fashion.
Mm.
But you said you were juggling chairs while you were in custody.
It's true though. I was so they take you. I made enough jokes about it, but they have this room, interrogation room or whatever they might call it, and
Hmm.
it consists of a chair with a table about 4 feet across, and then other side of it, same thing, and then in between on the other side there's a chair, a leather chair, a leather metal chair with leather armrests, etc., and another one that just has leather seats. And now you're aware what I do with this, Chuck. You see me doing my contact juggling stuff, right?
Hmm.
So the deal is you have a side of my hand, turn to your other side. You know what I mean? I juggle this with TVs and my drum kit. And so I was in there for about half an hour to an hour, them coming in, telling me to put mask on or whatever. And I just said, it doesn't matter. And then so then they left for too long. I got bored and I started, I had nothing to do, but I'm like, I can juggle this shit, no problem here. The boom. So the small one, I did it. The larger one was a bit heavy, did it, dropped it off, and they came in. Don't do that anymore. I said, okay. And I
Yeah.
waited a bit longer, but they didn't care. They didn't do anything really.
Yeah. I also note that we weren't the only news organization targeted that weekend. I have contacts in Druthers, the national magazine, the print magazine that deals in these sorts of issues, and I have contacts within Rebel Media, who also indicated that they felt the border was so dangerous that they would take small planes, they would fly into Montreal rather than try and cross the border. In one way, that's scary, but in another way, it goes to the uselessness of what was going on, because the police stopped every third car from going through. They didn't stop everybody. They certainly didn't stop the virus. They didn't stop the reporters who flew in by plane. They didn't stop the coverage. The only thing they stopped was they made the legacy media fearful. I think it was in the last hour of the parade. I saw four people from the legacy media hovering 20 feet away from everybody else on a stairwell, trying to take pictures from a distance, and
When you
and
say
they were
parade,
kind of sad.
when you say parade, you mean the march, correct?
Yes. Yeah. No. No. I call it the parade. That's
Like the Rose Bowl parade.
yeah. That's an affection of me. It was absolutely a freedom march. Depending on who you talk to, there was between 100,000 and 200,000 people. Unless you talk with CBC, and CBC admits that there were 2,000 people at least.
Oh my God, that's how can they know that much?
Yeah.
But that was the legacy media. They were on those stairs that we were near where Bernie was, right?
Yeah, I don't know who. Maxime Bernier was also walking in the parade. He said some fairly interesting things. We've done some coverage from other news outlets. Hundreds of thousands marched in Quebec lockdowns, and this is the Druthers coverage, and underneath it we have the Rebel Media coverage. And Bernie was there. We talked to him a little bit. He was fun. I gave a goofy expression, and
That was
Mike took a
awesome.
picture of me.
Now here's the thing. I'll just run through what happened. Okay. Mike,
No,
Mike,
don't.
Mike takes a picture of this, and he said, Mike said, I said, "Oh my God, Santa!" He said, "You're relentless about that too."
I thought it was a little tense. I was actually a bit surprised we got into the province and to the parade on time. I remember the last 4 blocks were a little stressful because we couldn't find parking space, and I
No shit, Chuck, because you weren't in the last 4 blocks. You were on foot leaving this because there's no place to park. You were in the last like 27 blocks around and around that
I know
time.
I abandoned the car and I ran to the parade. I got there just as the parade was crossing by, and I got some good footage. I did a live stream on Facebook on the event. I got some good comments from it. And to be fair, it was a really good event. It was not the only parade. There was the Saturday Toronto parade, which I'm told people were ticketed at for some reason. The Toronto police came down hard on a number of people this weekend.
I'd like I'd like
You
to
you
find out
go.
about that. Did you find out? I couldn't find anything about that.
I know a couple of things. I know a lot of anecdotal evidence. I haven't done a lot of research. I would like to. It is
Yeah.
certainly a useful story. Altogether, I got the perception that there was about 20 parades across Canada. These things have been going on for 13 months.
Mm.
Likely they started up 2 weeks after the first 2 week lockdown didn't end. Uh, and now it's 14 months into the lockdown, and not a lot of people are confused any longer. We sort of think this is a permanent thing. We don't want it to be permanent. We want to go to church. We want to have jobs. We want to reopen our businesses. We don't necessarily want to defer our future to a small group of technocrats who tell Doug Ford what we should be doing every Monday.
The farmocrats might be a better expression.
Yeah, maybe. I also think it's noteworthy that we got a really good interview with Chris Sky. We did the parade. We were about time to relax, and then a strange person came up to us and said, "No, no, come over here. Chris Sky is about
You
to
were
give a
the
speech."
who were we standing with then?
Uh,
Oh wait a minute, I was.
yeah, Mike and I caught it. We were standing by. We were actually going in to get some food. We were done for the day. But Kellyanne Wolf, one of the more notorious protesters from across Canada, she started out in Toronto. She's agitating, she's advocating, she's helping to get protests up and running around the country. She dragged us over to watch Chris Sky as he gave a quite rousing, I think it was a half-hour speech about what's happening before. He said explicitly that last summer was the summer of awakening. We had to convince people that the 2 week lockdowns were not ever going to be canceled anytime soon, no matter what was going on. And this summer is a summer of activism, is fighting back. And he said that there were 250,000 people, maybe uh, not an order of magnitude different from everybody else, but he
That's pretty.
said that,
That seems like quite a bit, Chuck.
yeah, he said this is the biggest parade ever, and he was right about that. I would say absolutely he was right about that. And he also mentioned that
I don't know about parades.
yeah, and he also talked about his freedom caravan, which drove from Vancouver all the way across the country to Toronto, and at some points he had hundreds of cars following him. A lot of the people were turned back at the borders, so there are border lockdowns all across the country. And in a free society, I think it's odd that you can't cross borders. I was in Russia in the 70s and the 80s. I was in Hong Kong and communist China in the early 2000s, and the fact that you can't go very far in those countries was an obvious indication of a communist regime. Freedom of movement was for capitalist societies like Canada, and I note that we don't have freedom of movement anymore. I find that frightening.
Well, Chuck, maybe that's true. But how did Chris Guy get into Montreal then? If he drove to end in Toronto,
I don't know. I think he has good lawyers. But I would
Or-
guess that my understanding is that a lot of people weren't able to cross borders.
no,
And,
I could
and he
believe that.
mentioned
Or
that in his
intimidated,
speech.
more like intimidated to not go. Probably was the big harm.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think there's any real laws that will stick in a court of law that will keep you from going across. And to be fair, I would guess based on my experience that only, I don't know, 20% of the people were even stopped. The police were depending on intimidation.
I would have no clue though, Chuck, how many were stopped. I wouldn't know. We weren't on the highway that long.
Yeah, I know. And on the way back, I noticed that there were still border guards at the border. Got a report later in the day that a movie camera crew from Quebec had actually gone into Cornwall
Yeah.
on Friday night, and for some reason they're allowed to go back and forth across provinces, but actual accredited journalists aren't, and they worry about their future.
Sounds like they would have been more fun than where I was standing by myself.
Yeah, maybe. You have cred now, though. I'm very impressed with you.
I'm badass, Chuck.
I also note the war on religion being waged by governments at various levels. The most recent example of that is Aylmer Church, which is engaged in an ongoing court case with the government of Canada. They won last week. An Ontario judge has denied a government of Ontario application for an interim injunction to lock the doors of the Church of God in Aylmer, Ontario, until a court case has been adjudicated. It's a very similar injunction to one issued 2 weeks ago by an Alberta judge authorizing police and public health officials to use such reasonable force as they deem appropriate to gain access to the building of Pastor Artur Pawlowski's church in Calgary. This is the same Pastor Pawlowski who shouted down police officers on 2 previous occasions, recorded the interaction, and had the interaction go viral. So the police are really trying hard to cut down churches who mostly want to worship God. I don't think churches have been closed down en masse around the world since, I don't know, the 2nd century AD.
You were there, I guess.
I'm not that old.
Oh, okay.
I have blonde hair, not gray. Give me a break.
Oh, right, of course. It's just the lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's a lot of them though, and I also, especially, we have some personal stake in it. I'm on board with Hildebrand. We've been to his house with us for dinner. We've also been to the church of his as well, and they think it's a nice little service they've got going on there. We've done a story about that, so it's good that there were people who were there covering that. He's the kind of guy that attracts a good crowd for real. He's one of the
Yes.
guys that will have to be, there.
Church of God was open on Sunday, May 2nd, to a packed house, including a number of politicians. Derek Sloan, from the MP from Eastern Ontario, one or two others. Druthers was there. A number of other people were there. It was a good time. Was had by all.
So what's a druthers, Chuck? For people who don't know.
Druthers is officially a competitor, but unofficially they are a collaborator. They are a print media publication. They are a newspaper that comes out monthly. They're anywhere between 12 and 24 pages. Edited by a guy named Sean Jason, who I highly respect. I would say that the issue coming out over the next 2 days actually even includes an article by me. So I certainly respect what he does.
I respect that, despite that. Just kidding, Chuck.
No problem at all. My concern is that there is a war going on. Pastor Pawlowski's church in Calgary remains open despite the edict from the Alberta politicians. But another church, the Grace Life Church in Alberta, under Pastor James Coates, was closed down on April 8th, and church members, likely under the direction of their pastor, are currently meeting each Sunday at an undisclosed location in secret and in contravention of the police and government edicts. They are one of about 135 so-called Reformed churches in the country that have decided that it's more important to worship your God than to cower in your home as the government wants you to. And they're fighting.
Hildebrand suggested that his religion was founded on revolution.
Yeah. Well, he's going to get a chance to
Live up to
see if
that.
they still got it. Yeah. To be fair, Hildebrand and his colleagues are all members of the Liberty Coalition Canada. This is a well-funded organization composed of essentially hundreds of Canadian churches, businesses, and other organizations. It was initially formed in 2020 as a faith-based provincial initiative in Ontario to reopen Ontario churches and publicly promote the Canada-wide Niagara 2020 declaration,
Now,
which called for freedom of religion in Canada.
now, how are they taking? Are they more of a legal thing or or maybe a publication thing, or what are they? What steps are they taking?
I believe they're full on charity at the present time. They're in the midst of some serious fundraising. Uh, Given that they've got 150 churches signed up as members, I don't doubt they'll raise a lot of money almost immediately. Uh, let me. They also have a lot of politicians they're affiliated with. Uh, Derek Sloan, Maxime Bernier, who's also at the Montreal protest. He gave a good speech,
Mhm.
and Randy Hillier, and a bunch of others. There are 60 odd municipally, provincially, and federally who are involved in this initiative. So these are guys with a certain amount of smarts. They don't think it's a good idea to lock down Canada. I got a certain amount of science behind them, and they are maybe our last best hope at this time. Although I sort of think that the best thing to do is to go out, live your life, come to the protest on Saturday, and ignore the government edicts.
What they have is a certain amount of prestige and fame, for real.
Yeah.
Except for Bernier, most of them are.
Oh, Max is my hero. I thought you could
Oh,
tell.
well, I'm glad you brought that up, Chuck. Now, another funny story about what happened in Montreal, that Mike, who is the camera, he's got the best camera in the world, you know. And so Chuck went up to get a picture of himself beside Bernie, and his son was just
Oh
in such a
God.
spot, and he had the goofiest look on his face. And so, so Mike said, he said, "Look, it's Santa! It's Santa!"
Yeah,
He nailed
I was
the
just so
revelation.
happy to have made it through the border and to be
Uh,
covering something that I thought was important.
that just suffice
I
saying.
look really stupid.
Oh, oh,
I forgive myself,
oh
but
gotcha. That was worth it.
yeah.
I would stay. I was did more done more time in the in the clink for better for that. You know. Anyway,
No, I agree. One last story I'd like to deal with tonight is India. Legacy media in North America has been promoting the fact that every second person is dying on Indian streets. I to that end, I would suggest you look at the April 27th, 2021 Ivor Cummins YouTube post. Short video on India situation. What does the current data say? The short answer is that India has proportionately one half, one third the caseload as Canada or the United States. People aren't dropping dead in the streets. Uh,
even the pictures that they're using in the mainstream media are from a different time. Also,
yeah, I noticed that as well. The pictures aren't related to what's happening
yeah, it's
now.
ridiculous. Like it's just ridiculous. How the hell can they get away with this garbage?
I
Like,
don't know. They remind me to the pictures of China. Remember when the Wuhan
oh,
virus, the
oh yeah.
coronavirus, first came out of China, and Chinese people were dropping dead in the streets.
Oh, and that one guy having an epileptic seizure, some sort in the street. You know.
Yeah, that
That's
was quite
awful.
obviously been debunked since then.
Yeah.
But at this point, I would encourage people to look at this documentation. Ivor Cummins is a smart, scientifically backed individual who uses statistical analysis, reason, and evidence, and World Health Organization numbers, data accepted and endorsed by the World Health Organization,
Mhm.
and he is not to be easily dismissed.
Well, I mean, depends on people have easily dismissed him, but he presents the argument his point in a very easy, digestible way for real.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
by the way, Chuck, isn't there another story? Don't you think, Chuck?
which one?
Oh, didn't someone work so hard on it?
Oh,
Didn't
our new graphics. Forgive me. We have brand new fancy red graphics that are going at the beginning of our show, that are going on our website. We even have business cards with the fancy new graphics on it. Uh, Freedom Angela Argentina. I can never get her name right, but she has provided this. She is a wonderful human being, very good graphic artist, actually a pretty good interviewer, to be honest. We have at least one more interview coming up with her over the next week or so, and I think she's done a fantastic job with the graphics. I think they really pop.
that's I just want to make sure she got a shout out then. That's for real.
No, that's perfectly sensible. I wanted to talk about her as well. We are at the point in the show where we want to remind everybody watching to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our content, and tell us what you like about it. I would also note that I'm going to share the screen a bit more again, just once more, and I'm going to go to my two other pages. We're looking for smart people who do things. If you want to volunteer for Freedom Forum, if you want to do something useful, if you want to make a difference, send us an email or go to our website and sign up.
You know what I think, Chuck, honestly, while we're on point, is
Yeah,
most people that put their names on as volunteers would rather probably pay. Seriously.
I think you're probably right.
Because
I think it's absolutely important that you help fund our growth.
what they're looking for, honestly, in my experience, and this is not an insult at all, this is
Yeah.
more of a reflection, after reflection, is that they want to be involved, they want to contribute, but they're thinking, well, what am I going to do? Maybe I'm a journalist, what the hell? What do you want from me? Right? Anyway,
No, I agree 100%.
I didn't
It
mean
takes
to
it takes money for three of us to go across the border to Montreal
done more than
to
others.
cover the event. Al got a $500 fine this weekend. If you can help us out with that, we'd really appreciate it. We need new equipment in order to keep operational. We appreciate your patronage, and you can influence our content. You can tell us what you want to see. We take PayPal. We have our QR code down here. You can also pay us through Druthers. We also can do email transfers. Anything you feel is useful, please contribute.
So what you're suggesting then is people will pay, they can influence the content. Then you just go come right and say it. That's
Oh God, I'm just like the legacy media.
um,
Ah!
check. They don't say that. They just do it. What we're trying to do here. That's kidding, Chuck. That's just joking.
Let me go out of this, and I think that's all for
We had
tonight.
a good weekend though.
Yeah, we had a good
We had a
week.
good weekend though. We
Yep.
really did though, and
Yeah.
all came together. It just all came together then, and it's hard. I don't. As a journalist, there's not very many chances you get to do something. We even talked about it on the way there. That how don't get involved with stories where it's sort of covered. How we do this, blah blah blah. And then before we even got into like Quebec, we were the story. You know what I mean? But also in that merit, by that same merit, then they fucked with the wrong people because we were ready to go. I have a law degree, and like they didn't know the law very well, and we had Campbell done how to publish his stuff and contacts enough to find me sleeping on the floor of a paralegals who knows exactly what to do.
We
For
were
real,
lucky.
and it's
We
nice
had
to see this.
resources. Yeah, we had resources. Oh, sorry, Al.
I know it felt very good for that. It felt very good to see that we're all supported on this way then. Because if it was just, what I mean, it really felt supported as a movement, really.
Yeah, we were lucky. It shows that people can contribute in different ways. You can help push out our stories. You can help us when we get into trouble. You can offer suggestions for really great content in the future. And you're right. We had a really good week. We highlighted something that most other news organizations don't get to do, and we came away with it. We came away in decent good shape. So I'm happy, not just with Al, but with Mike Bear from
Absolutely.
Free
Mike,
Speech Media.
Mike
He was great.
fantastic.
He's a
Yeah.
far better editor than me.
Oh, he's better editor than anyone, you know.
Yeah.
And
No, no.
he's the guy. He's the journalist, you know. That's like, you know, that it was just it just worked for everyone here. And honestly, I show you the scars that I have, but Chuck, I'd have to take my shirt off, and it's pretty gruesome. Like, I haven't called a doctor yet. I'm not sure they'd take me to the hospital for rehabilitative consultation surgery yet. I don't know. I mean, we'll see if it grows back. I don't know.
You will live from a legal perspective. We are making inquiries. We are going to stand up for our rights,
Mhm, I agree.
and you should too.
That's the thing, Chuck. Like I was trying to get hold of a like Adam Skelly, as I mentioned to you.
Yeah.
Not that I've done taken any real steps other than said to you, I'm trying to get a hold of him, but find out what his experiences were through the process here. Just for some benchmarking kind of things. See the kind of stuff I could expect.
How about I agree? That'll be a good start for next week. Uh, by way of shadowing, we've got some good items coming up next week. I would encourage you to tune in, freedomforumcanada.com. And I believe that's it for tonight.
One more
Last week,
photo, Chuck. What assignment were we on? Who assigned us to go to Montreal?
we assigned ourselves.
Really? I remember there's a letter from someone else that we had. I forget.
Oh, yeah. Back Channel TV. That was our assignment level. We are moderately concerned about Canadian government changes under Bill C-10 to the independence of the media,
Mhm.
and we collaborated on our last trip with an organization that had an actual cable television outlet because Bill C-10 covers primarily social media. I don't know what Rebel News is going to do. I think they'll try with a deal in much the same way as we're trying to work out a deal. But I don't like the idea that we're not allowed to talk with each other. We're not allowed to share information. We're not allowed to draw conclusions.
Well,
So we made a deal.
basically, what the bill's going to do is enforce, say, internet chatter the same way that they enforce CRTC rules with television stations,
Yeah,
or whatever they decide. The point is, whatever they decide,
yeah, pretty much. But I also know that the legacy media doesn't go to these events.
they'll be filming, Chuck. They will be affected.
Yeah, people will stop talking about stuff, and I don't want to do that.
No, well, but someone does, and that's the legacy media, right?
Yeah. Anyway, we got to go.
All right, Chuck. Pleasure.
That's last week today for May 3rd, 2021. I'm Chuck Black. This is Al Calder. We will be back next Monday.